Today, we are going to cover a book from Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy. Ego is an unhealthy belief in our own importance. And it is our enemy because it sabotages our long-term goals. So, to understand it better, we are going to explore why is ego part of our lives and how can we handle our own egos. So, let's get started. Key takeaway number 1. The danger of ego. Ego takes a concern about self-image and turns it into obsession. It takes confidence and turns it into arrogance. It shows up in 3 ways. Number 1. Aspiration. We are permanently busy because we are seeking constant approval from others. Our ego prefers talking about what we are going to do rather than actually doing it. Ryan Holiday describes a story about Emily Gould writing a book battle with ego. While writing, she was constantly scrolling and updating her social media about what she plans to do. This didn't earn her any money but felt like work. Number 2. Noteworthy success. The second way ego shows up is when we achieve something great that impresses people. Such as winning a championship or selling a company, ego steps in and gets us into thinking that all our future efforts will be successes. Instead of remaining focused and building upon previous successes, we become overconfident in our abilities and tend to take on too much. Ryan provides a story of young Howard Hughes who inherited Hughes Tool Company only as 18 years old. He grew his family company from 1 million to 1 billion. But his early successes made him think he can succeed in whatever he picked. So, he went into aviation, stocks, and filmmaking. And that became fatal for Hughes. He got into big problems and lost almost everything. Number 3. Failure. Lastly, our ego steps in when we experience failure. In order to defend our ego, we tend to say it's not our fault. You can't blame me. If it is such an enemy, how do we defeat it? Plus, minus, equal method. For each fighter to be great, he needs to have someone better than them, someone worse than them, and someone equal to them. And equal is important because we have someone to fight, someone we can compete with. The competitor pushes us to improve. We also need someone better than us because when ego steps in, it will remind us there is always someone better to remain focused and work towards our goals. Lastly, we need someone less experienced than us. When we feel like a failure, this type of person reminds us we still have something to teach or pass on to someone less experienced. This brings us to key takeaway number 2. Always be a student. A key element in overcoming ego is adopting a student mindset. Continuously learning and staying curious allows us to remain humble and adaptable, as we recognize that there is always more to discover and improve upon. Many people get overly confident in one area and forget that they know so little about everything else. The ego tries to build an identification with success, withholding you from learning more, but learning is a requirement, especially in the beginning. The book explains that when you are just starting out, you need to remember, you aren't as good as you think you are, you probably need your attitude readjusted, and the things you learned in books or school are out of date or wrong. Many factors will determine the success you will reach as you're starting out, one of them being your willingness to listen to feedback, especially critical feedback. The book discusses an amateur as being defensive to critical feedback, but a professional is delighted in being challenged to learn more. It illustrates the idea of a real professional with Kirk Hammett, lead guitarist of the heavy metal band Metallica. After Metallica recruited him, he quickly found a teacher so that he could become even better. Metallica went on to become one of the most successful bands in the world, and throughout all this success, Kirk remained humble and continued learning. This brings us to key takeaway number 3. Talk and think less. Do more. When you begin to live with purpose instead of passion, your ego will begin to lessen, and you will gain the quiet confidence the philosopher Seneca referred to as euthymia, having a sense of your own path and not getting distracted by externals. As you talk less and act more, you will begin to gain this tranquility when working, helping you maintain your purposeful work. Talking is easy, everyone does it, but silence is rare in today's world. Your ego tells you that you need recognition from others, but real confidence doesn't need to talk, it produces work. Talking destroys action. Sit quietly and work. Let go of the distractions of social media and of the news, and focus on your work. Watch how much better you get. Talking and thinking too much drain the energy you could be using to put into your work. At times we definitely need to be thinking, such as when envisioning goals, but if you spend too much time thinking and talking about what you are going to do, you are less likely to actually do it. Where are the results? Stay focused on execution. Think when you need to and then get to work. People who live with purpose understand they aren't working to retire and live on their couch. They are working for something beyond themselves, and this guides them confidently throughout their lives. This brings us to takeaway number 4. Embrace humility. Cultivating humility is the antidote to ego. By acknowledging our limitations, being open to learning from others, and practicing self-awareness, we can keep our egos in check and foster personal development. Ego often drives us to pursue self-serving goals, which can lead to destructive behaviors. Instead, Holiday suggests focusing on contributing to others and serving a greater purpose, which can bring more fulfillment and lasting success. Now, let's get to key takeaway number 5. Conquer the need for recognition. Ego often seeks external validation and recognition. Holiday encourages readers to detach themselves from the need for constant approval and to find fulfillment in the pursuit of excellence, irrespective of recognition. Focus on the process, not the outcome. Instead of fixating on external validation and outcomes, concentrate on the process and the journey towards your goals. By valuing the work itself and staying committed to improvement, you can avoid being consumed by ego-driven desires. This was all for today's book. Ego is the Enemy. Let us briefly recap the key points covered. The danger of ego. Ego sabotages long-term goals by turning self-image into obsession and confidence into arrogance. It manifests in aspirations for constant approval, overconfidence after noteworthy success, and defensiveness in the face of failure. Always be a student. Adopt a student mindset to overcome ego. Continuous learning and curiosity promote humility and adaptability. Recognize that there's always more to discover and improve upon, and stay open to critical feedback for personal growth, as exemplified by Kirk Hammett. Talk and think less, do more, focus on purposeful work, gain tranquility, and quiet confidence. Limit excessive talking and thinking, and prioritize execution to achieve tangible results and maintain focus. Embrace humility, acknowledge limitations, be open to learning from others, and practice self-awareness. Cultivating humility counters the ego's destructive behaviors and encourages contributing to others and serving a greater purpose. Conquer the need for recognition, detach from external validation, and seek fulfillment in pursuing excellence. Value the process and journey towards goals rather than being driven by ego-driven desires and outcomes.